have your attention please? The 9th IIMEFC and call for papers will begin shortly. Ladies and gentlemen, please proceed to Assembly Hall 3 and be seated. Thank you. Kami informasikan kepada Bapak Ibu yang masih berada di luar Assembly Hall 3 untuk dapat segera memasuki ruangan dan menempati kursi yang tersedia karena acara akan segera dimulai. Terima kasih. Welcome to Governor of Bank Indonesia, Dr. Peri Warjio, and all distinguished guests to the 9th IIMEFC and call for papers. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the national anthem, Indonesia Raya. Be seated. Excellency Governor of Bank Indonesia, Dr. Peri Warjio, distinguished hosts, speakers, and moderator, Head of Bank Indonesia Institute, Dr. Dioga Afandi, Professor Mulyaman Haddad from Diponegoro University, Professor Iftekhar Hasan from Fordham University, USA, Professor Mariam Tegun from Nottingham University, UK, Professor Mansur Ibrahim, Managing Editor, Journal of Islamic Monetary Economics and Finance, or JIMF, esteemed guests, participants, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good morning to all of you. First of all, praise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His grace and mercies, so we can gather at the 9th International Islamic Monetary Economics and Finance Conference and call for papers today. Second, let us greet and pray to our beloved Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, who had brought us to the path of light. Ladies and gentlemen, this conference is also available online, so we thank you to our online participants for joining us today. To begin the program, let's start by reciting Basmalah together. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. And now, may we listen to the Holy Quran recitation on Surah Al-Araf 56, Al-Araf 74 and Al-Qasas 77 by Ilham Mahmudin.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولا تفسدوا في الأرض بعد إصلاحها وادعوه خوفا وطمعا. إن رحمة الله قريب من المحسنين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. واذكروا إذ جعلكم خلفاء من بعد عاد وبوأكم في الأرض تتخذون من صهولها قصورا وتنحتون الجبال بيوتا. فاذكروا آلاء الله ولا تعثوا في الأرض مفسدين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وابتغ فيما آتاك الله الدار الآخرة ولا تنس نصيبك من الدنيا وأحسن كما أحسن الله إليك وأحسن كما أحسن الله إليك ولا تبغ الفساد في الأرض إن الله لا يحب المفسدين صدق الله العظيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Ladies and gentlemen, let us now have a moment of silence to pray together. Dua will be led by Ustadz Henry Abu Rabani.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Innal hamdalillah nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastahdi. Asyhadu an la ilaha illallah wa asyhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu la nabiyya wa la rasula ba'd. For this time, let's thank to God Allah Almighty because He given us mercy and blessing until we can to meet together in this place. Secondly, salat and salam to our Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to lead our prayer to our God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in this time, in this duha, insyaAllah. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Hamdan na'imin. Hamdan yuafi ni'mahu wa yukafi'u mazidah. Ya Rabbana lakal hamd. كما ينبغي لجلال وجهك الكريم ولعظيم سلطانك اللهم فصل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين وعلينا معهم برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين اللهم إنا نسألك خير المولج وخير المخرج بسم الله ولجنا وبسم الله خرجنا وعلى ربنا توكلنا يا رب العالمين اللهم اغفر لنا ذنوبنا ووسع لنا في دارنا هذا يا رب العالمين اللهم بارك لنا في أرزاقنا وبارك لنا في معيشتنا وبارك لنا في بيوتنا وبارك لنا في عمرنا وبارك لنا في أمورنا يا رب العالمين. اللهم إنا نسألك خير هذا اليوم ونعوذ بك من سوء هذا اليوم ومن شر هذا اليوم. اللهم سلمنا وسلم ديننا وسلم أجسادنا وسلم أموالنا من بلاء الدنيا وعذاب الآخرة. ربنا أدخلنا مدخل صدق وأخرجنا مخرج صدق واجعل لنا من لدنك سلطانا نصيرا. اللهم إنا نسألك علما نافعا ورزقا واسعا طيبا مباركا فيه، ونسألك شفاء من كل داء يا رب العالمين. رب اغفر لنا ولوالدينا وارحمهما كما ربيانا صغيرا. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. ثم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Thank you for reciting the Holy Quran and dua for us. May Allah always give us guidance and help. Amin. Next, we would like to invite everybody to see the JIMF Manifesto.
In the heart of the global financial progress shines bright. Welcome to the Journal of Islamic Monetary Economics and Finance, or JIMF. JIMF, an international peer-reviewed journal published quarterly by Bank Indonesia, has emerged as a trailblazer in the field of Islamic monetary, economics, and finance. Since its establishment in July 2015, JIMF has hurdled over numerous challenges, continuously evolving to embody Bank Indonesia's vision. It's been a journey marked by perseverance. Even in the face of the COVID-19 pandemic, JIMF remains steadfast in its mission. In 2022, JIMF reached a significant milestone when it was accepted for inclusion in Scopus, a testament to its unwavering commitment to excellence. By 2023, JIMF achieved an impressive second quartile position in Scopus, and yet, this is just the beginning. However, international recognition is not the final destination. JIMF's ultimate goals is to catalyze positive human capital development and societal change through knowledge. To achieve this, we've rolled out a transformative strategic plan meticulously designed by the JIMF Board of Editors. We will strengthen our branding, focus on emerging market issues, hold international conference, and engage our community with calls for papers. We will enhance citation rates by selecting the most relevant topics. Our infrastructure will receive a facelift with improvements to our website and editing process transparency. And we will expand our scholarly network, fostering collaboration between national and international researchers, particularly in the area of Islamic economics and finance. Our vision is not just about academic accolades. It's about making a meaningful, enduring contribution to Indonesia's economic development. As we move forward, we will continue to evolve, nurturing the research ecosystem and cementing JIMF as the foremost reference journal in Islamic monetary, economics, and finance.
Ladies and gentlemen, this annual conference provides a great opportunity for prospective participants to enhance their knowledge, research findings, and experiences in dealing with Islamic economics and finance. This event will also feature presentations by prominent international speakers with engaging topics. And now to kick off the event, may I call upon our distinguished host, Head of Bank Indonesia Institute, Dr. Yoga Alfandi, to deliver the committee report.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Honorable Governor of Bank Indonesia, Dr. Peri Warjio, distinguished plenary speakers, Professor Mulyaman Haddad, Professor Iktefar Hasan, Professor Meriam Duyun, and Professor Mansor Ibrahim, the Managing Editor of the GIMF, members of Editorial Board of the GIMF, honorable guests from Bank Indonesia and government institutions, esteemed guests from partner institutions, private sectors, academia and research institutions, webinar participants from Indonesia and abroad, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Peace be upon you, a very good morning. Salawat and salam be upon Prophet Muhammad, the seal of Prophet, the messenger of God. First of all, let us begin by expressing our praise and gratitude to Allah, the Almighty God. It is only by His blessings and permissions that we are able to assemble here and participate in the 9th International Monetary Economics and Finance Conference and call for papers. The title of this year's conference is Accelerating Digitalization in Sharia Economic and Finance for Inclusive and Sustainable Growth in the Post-Pandemic Recovery. This conference aims to promote the development of an Islamic economic ecosystem. The ecosystem will integrate various components such as Islamic finance, halal industries, Islamic businesses, and Islamic academia along with the policymakers. The objective is to facilitate the discussion and exchange of the perspectives. The conference would not have been possible without the infallible guidance and support of the Bank Indonesia Board of Governors, most notably Governor Peri Warjio. Throughout the year, their guidance and support had a significant influence on the transformation of the economic research landscape, specifically in the field of Sharia economics. This influence has been felt not only within Bank Indonesia, but also in the broader context of Indonesia. As a result, notable progress has been observed in the overall improvement of Bank Indonesia's publication in the field of Sharia economics, the Journal of Islamic Monetary Economics and Finance, along with the enhancement of its annual conference. Distinguished guest conference participants, allow me to report the progress of GIMS as follows. First, the journal for this year has garnered positive feedback from researchers and scholars globally. In the current year, the GIMF has received a total of 300 submitted papers originating from a diverse range of 35 countries. Among the 300 papers submitted, 163 papers, or 54%, were authored by Indonesian researchers. 113 papers, or 38% of the total, were authored by foreign scholars, and the remaining 24 papers were authored by researchers from multiple countries. This statistic indicates the increased international reputation of the journal. The selection of invited papers was rigorous and very competitive, with prominent experts performing the evaluation. After examination, the invited articles may be published in the journal and will be peer-reviewed before publishing in the GIMF regulars issue. Secondly, over the past few years, there has been a consistent effort to enhance the journal management, editorial team, and also published papers, aligning them with international standards such as Scopus in the section. This progress has been influenced by the successful practices of its sister journal, the Bulletin of Monetary Economics and Banking. This initiative involves enhancing the composition of the editorial board by incorporating 14 renowned economists from various countries across 5 continents, in addition to esteemed editorial members from Indonesia. Lastly, praise be to Allah, the most gracious and most merciful. We are delighted to inform you that the GIMF has been accepted for indexing in Scopus since April 2022. As of June 2023, it has also been ranked in 56th percentile, which is Q2 within its respective field, and also accredited for Sintawan since July 2022. I would also like to mention that up until now, Bank Indonesia Institute has successfully formed strategic partnership with a total 97 national institutions. As a strategy for enhancing the ecosystem in Indonesia, we also plan to expand this partnership to include faculties other than the Faculty of Economics, as the Economic Faculty serves as the fundamental basis for central bank domain of expertise. The objective of this endeavor was to enhance the economic research ecosystem in Indonesia and foster interdisciplinary research in the field, thereby encouraging young and prominent scholars to become future authors of the GIMF and Bank Indonesia's research journal. Mr. Governor, distinguished guests, conference participants, on that final note, I would like to conclude my report. On behalf of Bank Indonesia Institute, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to the distinguished speakers, to all participants and partner institutions, as well as the organizing and scientific committee for their commendable endeavors in facilitating this event. Now, I would like to kindly request the Governor of Bank Indonesia to deliver his keynote speech and officially open this international conference. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Dr. Yoga. And next, may we have the honor to invite Governor of Bank Indonesia, Dr. Peri Warjio, to deliver the keynote speech and to officially open the conference.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillahilladzi an'amana bi nikmati wal Islam wal iman wal ihsan. Allahumma sholli wa sallim ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alaihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd. Allah Ta'ala fil Qur'anin Karim, a'udzu billahi minasyaitonir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Iqra bismi rabbikal ladzil khalaq. Khalaqal insana min 'alaq. Iqra wa rabbukal akram. Aladzil alamal bil qalam. Alamal insana malam ya'lam. My fellows, former board of governor, and also the first chairman of FSA, OJK, Professor Mulyaman Haddad, also my fellow former board of governor, Halim Alamsyah, as well as member of editorial board of the journal Islamic Monetary, Economic and Finance, distinguished speaker, Professor Mulyaman Haddad, Professor Itikar Hasan, and Professor Maryam Duikun. All of the attendees, participants, and also the presenter of the paper. In my whole life, I will wonder, in strong belief, why the first firman of Allah is Iqra bismi rabbikal ladzil khalaq. Why? We understand that after Allah created a man from the cloud and teach us by pen, but beyond that, teach us what we do not know. I keep wondering that. I also keep wondering why Allah created COVID, pandemic. COVID is a very small thing, but spread the whole world, and the whole world is collapsed. Until now, we still struggle to recover. And the world economy, according to IMF, will be very difficult to recover even before the COVID level. Why? COVID. What is COVID? It's small. It's like a flu. This is a strong signal from Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala for us to ikra again. And to be better. This is when it comes to my mind, Professor Ektar, Professor Mulyaman Haddad, and Professor Mulyaman, you know better than I do. One of the answer is this theme. Accelerated digitalization or area economic finance, inclusive social growth. 3 keywords. 1, digitalization. 2, post area economic finance. 3, benefit for inclusive and social growth. Is it one of the answer of Allah reminder to us to ikra from the COVID? Let's think about it. Deeply. So in this respect, allow me just to share my thought just now. I just come to cross my thought, Pak Mulyaman, just now. I'm not reading what the staff prepared to me. Just come across to my mind. After contemplating, ikra. We already know by the pen of digitalization. We already know some of the Islamic economic finance. We probably by the pen know inclusive and social growth. But do we know what we do not know going to the forward of the future? How to accelerate digitalization for Syariah economy and finance and for inclusive economic and growth. Let me start with the digitalization. 10 months before the COVID, August 2019, just 10 months before COVID, Pak Mulyaman, I require all of the QR of Indonesia using QR Indonesian standard. After, with the industry, building QR. We do not know that. Because before that, Professor Ektar, so many QR in Indonesia. After my first era of the governor, May 2018, I call upon all of the industry. If so many QR, how can the QR talk each other? We have to build national QR. And then August 2019, the 17th August 19, QR Indonesian standard. We already know after that, when we have COVID, because using QR Indonesian standard, we can deliver very fast so many cash program by the government. Without cash, using QR Indonesian standard, the money from the government using QR Indonesian standard distribute to all of the needy people. By QR Indonesian standard, then everybody can purchase. Even myself, Pak Mulyaman, purchase the young coconut from my home. pizza from my home, or even nasi goreng from my home, and deliver it within 2 hours. I cannot imagine if we do not have QR back then, QR eraser. I have to go to the ATM card, paying cash, and going to supermarket, and then also to warung, and then I becoming prone to COVID pandemic. Million people doing that if we do not have QR Indonesian standard. Thanks to Allah, Alhamdulillah. Is this our wonder, our belief that Allah will teach us what we already understand by the pen, and we do not know if we keep asking him about his knowledge. Then actually what we are so fast, very aggressive digitalizing Indonesia. Not only QR Indonesian standard, but also fast payment, and now almost 41 million of users, about close to 37 million SME using QR Indonesian. Most university using QR Indonesian fast payment. Is that one of the answer of our Iqra from the COVID for us to accelerate digitalization? Because digitalization have so many benefits. Of course, the transaction is very fast, very efficient, 24 hours with a minimum cost. And this can be used for common people, SME, inclusive, retail payment, mostly are retail payment. And as well as for cross-border payment. We already interconnected, Prof. Ektar, our QR and fast payment with Malaysia, Thailand, and soon in this 7th November, I will go to Singapore. 4 countries already connected. Just imagine our SME, including also Syariah SME, interconnect among the 4 countries. Very fast as well. To other countries. We will keep expanding this our QR. And now, I'm sure Pak Halim, whatever do in the banking, just stay, whatever. Doing the online banking, whatever. Cross-border. And without mobilization, as well as also traffic, and also green carbon reduction. This acceleration is one of the answer, one of the reminder from Allah, and our answer to be Iqra. In Indonesia, we build our payment system, digitalization, only using 3 taglines. One nation, one country, one language. One language, we are using our QR Indonesian standard, national language of payment system, standard national open API. We are using one nation, we are building one nation because interconnection of our fast payment, RTGS, national payment gateway, we are interconnected. But also one country, we are building consolidation, our payment industry, as well as marketplace, fintech, and so on. But of course, many benefits also have raised on the digitalization. Remember, always a good guys and the bad guys. This is where Islam need to go. Because some of the digitalization prone to cyber attack. Some of the digital being used for illegal gambling, illegal intermediation or loan financing. But most of all, also some risk of misuse of data, or misuse of the data. So let's Iqra together what we know and we do not know about acceleration of digitalization. Indonesia, very fast digitalization, so many benefit for humankind as well as for SME, Syariah or non-Syariah, Islamic and non-Islamic. But Bank Indonesia very aggressive in digitalization, but remember, there is a risk of cyber, malware, gambling, illegal intermediation function, and data misuse. This is the first tagline, accelerate decision. I think Professor Mulyaman, Professor Miriam, and Professor Iftar will dwell into detail. Let's talk how we use accelerate decision in Syariah economic and finance. Forgive me, Professor Iftar, if my knowledge about Islamic economic and finance is a bit limited. But let me just say these three aspects. What the key of Syariah economic and finance? One, rahmatan lil alamin. There is no way Pak Yoga Syariah economic finance be developed if not rahmatan lil alamin, not benefiting for most of all. Benefiting Islam or non-Islam, because rahmatan lil alamin, continuing supporting economic growth. But beyond that is inclusive, SME, sustainable, green. This is rahmatan lil alamin. Then, what is the model of the business of Islamic economic and finance? Of course, need to be halal and thayyiban. But most of all, there are so many sectors that we need to develop Syariah economic and finance to be rahmatan lil alamin. In the economic, of course, SME development is very important. Of course, in finance, zakat, infak, sodakah, using digitalization is very important. This is why we are using CRIS in so many most Islamic building, we are digitalizing them. This the first principle. Rahmatan lil alamin. Benefit for economic growth, benefit for common people, inclusive also according to the green economy. Rahmatan lil alamin. Second, must be amanah. This is the principle of Syariah economic finance. Then we talk amanah of who? Amanah of the business, amanah of also the policy maker, the bankers. And we ask whether our banker amanah in implementing our Islamic economy. Whether our lembaga amil zakat also amanah in collecting, also in distributing. This is actually the core principle of zakat, wakaf, core principle of the banking, Islamic banking, core principle that we do not know is about the business ethic. This is amanah. But number three is adil. Islamic economic and finance must benefit rahmatan lil alamin, must be done by amanah, but also adil. Yes, Islamic economic and finance must be profit-oriented, but not absolute profit. There's the principle of adil. The benefit of economic and finance must also be shared by the common people, by ummah. That's actually the three principles on the tagline number 2, Syariah economic and finance. Rahmatan lil alamin, benefit. Second, amanah. Third is adil. Then from that, of course, we need to go to the model business. SME, my heart is also always SME, Professor Iftar, Professor Maryam. SME, if we can digitalize our SME, if we can also halal certification of our SME, if we can train and establish our SME, and we also making from small economic scale to medium and larger economic scale, then our SME, I do believe, benefit for all, rahmatan lil alamin, also amanah by entablishment, as well as also adil. I think because SME in no way cannot be monopolistic. SME can no way even oligopolistic market. SME, I think, one of the way we go forward. So this is one point of the tagline number 3, inclusive and sustainable economic growth. Let's just focus, develop our SME, Syariah, economic, train them about entrepreneurship, train them about digitalization, and help them for certification of the halal. Help them to form a collective SME so the economic scale of our Islamic SME can be larger, can be more productive, more competitive. SME is one of the best way to go for the accelerated digitalization in Islamic and finance, SME. This is one point for tagline number 3, inclusive and sustainable economic growth. Of course, the SME also can be trained for waste management or other eco-friendly economic business. Number 2, for how to accelerate digitalization in Islamic economic for inclusive economic growth. Of course, focus on the SME. Number 2 is, of course, so many, as I said before, benefit of digitalization. This is very important because in our experience in Indonesia, digitalization can fastly. Now Bank Indonesia already in Islamic business development and our pondok pesantren boarding now is about 750 boarding all over Indonesia already being developed on our what we call it pondok pesantren business. Even we are also himpunan association of business of boarding. Boarding school, pondok pesantren. Tonight we have a national congregation of those aspects, but also we are building also up. But the digitization benefit of those aspects. Number 3 is of course education and literacy. Most of our common people do not know yet about digitization, about entrepreneurship, but beyond that, also campaigning about fikih of the business. It's very important to avoid about cyber, about illegal gambling, illegal loan payment, financing. What those illegal, I think those fikih is very important to build in digitalization for supporting our economic development. I think those, my apology, this just come across to my mind when I'm hearing the recitation of our Ustad and also pray from our Ustad, then why don't we keep wondering? Keep Iqra. What we know about accelerated digitalization as well as what we do not know. With the faith, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always give us the knowledge for accelerating our digitalization in Sharia economy and finance for benefiting inclusive and sustainable economic growth. With Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, hereby I declare the conference be open. Allah always guide us, believe that. And let's iqra for accelerating digitalization, Sharia economic and finance, for benefiting inclusive and sustainable economic growth. With that, wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you, Governor. Please remain on stage because we would like to invite Bapak Yoga Afandi, our distinguished speakers and moderator, to take pictures with the Governor. First photo in 1, 2, 3. And now for the second photo in 1, 2, 3. Can we have one more extra, Bapak? Enough? Okay, thank you. Bapak Ibu, please return to your seat. Once again, we would like to thank Governor Perry for taking time out of your busy schedule to open this conference. We would like to bid you farewell, Bapak, for the next schedule. Thank you once again. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, now that the conference is officially open, we shall begin our main agenda, plenary session on accelerating digitalization in Sharia economy and finance for inclusive and sustainable growth in post-pandemic recovery with the prominent speakers. And to lead the discussion is Professor Mansoor Ibrahim, Managing Editor of JIMF. But before we invite our moderator, we would like to give a brief introduction. Professor Mansoor Ibrahim is the Deputy President, Academic and Dean of School of Graduate Studies at NCF Malaysia. He is also professor at the International Center for Education in Islamic Finance. And prior to his current position, he was professor in University Putra Malaysia and International Islamic University Malaysia. Professor Mansoor Ibrahim earned his PhD in economics from Washington University, and we invite all participants in the Assembly Hall 3 to join the Q&A session later. And ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our moderator, Professor Mansoor Ibrahim.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, distinguished guests, speakers, paper presenters, and all participants. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm really honored to be here to serve as a moderator for this 9th edition of the plenary sessions of the conference. And today's themes, accelerating digitalizations for Sharia economy and finance in promoting inclusive and sustainable growth for the post-pandemic era. And I would say this theme is very important, very timely. It highlights the importance of having value-based or religious-based systems for inclusive and sustainable growth, and also highlight the need for digitalizations. And we have with us today 3 prominent speakers to deliberate on various aspects of the theme of the conference. We have Prof. Mulyaman Haddad from University Diponegoro. We have Prof. Iftikhar Hassan from Fordham University, and we have Prof. Mariam Dogun from Nottingham University. I would like to invite all 3 to join me on the stage. For these plenary sessions, I will give each speaker roughly 25 to 30 minutes to give a speech on the aspect related to the themes. I will start with Prof. Mulyaman first. And for all information, Prof. Mulyaman have to leave after his speech. So what I would do, after your speech, I will open up for Q&A. First, and then we will go to the second speaker, Prof. Iftikhar, and then proceed to the third speaker, Prof. Mariam, and then we are going to open up for Q&A. So let me start with Prof. Mulyaman and give introductions of him. And he's Professor of Economic and Business from University of Diponegoro. And I think he's not a stranger to Indonesia, very key figure and well-known figure in Indonesian banking and finance, received his PhD from Monash University, and have served Indonesia banking and Indonesia's banking and finance institution in various capacities, former Deputy Governor of Bank Indonesia, Chairman of OJK, and former Ambassador to the Switzerland. So I would like to invite Prof. Mulyaman to deliver your speech.
Thank you very much indeed. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Well, first of all, it's really great to see a lot of familiar faces for being away for quite a while. Dear speakers, ladies and gentlemen, let me start. Can we start presenting? Navigating into new frontier in digital space. Well, it's not easy. As Governor Perry mentioned earlier, that digitalization or digital transformation is something that we have to we have to watch very closely, because it is very important, very critical, and very central issues for our future. That's why navigating into the new world is really important. Navigating into the digital world is very important. I would like to mention, it is not easy for Islamic financial institution. Why? Let me little bit brief on these particular issues. Digitalization or digital transform need a lot of things. The first one is they need a lot of money, because digitalization is not cheap. So it is very important. as a very direct, that not easy for small financial institution. Who, you know, small financial institution always associated with the small capital, very limited existing digital infrastructure, limited culture to support, and limited staff or people to support the process. That's why then it is very important to note that it is not easy for Islamic financial institution. That's why we need to consolidate, we need something big, and we need help in particular to spend, you know, enough resources to support our venture to digitalization. So perhaps my first statement as an opening. But first of all, perhaps as we transform into a new world, I would like to start with several important indicators or several important, let's say, key success factors of, you know, venturing, I should call venturing into the new frontiers in digital space. Well, the first of all, we need strategy. Well, actually, we need very important strategy here. But actually, not only strategy. Strategy is very important, but then the execution is even more important. But let's start with the developing digital strategy. You know, digital strategy for regulators, digital strategy for the business or financial institution or Islamic banks for in particular. So venturing into new world is not really unique for regulators, but also for other participants in financial ecosystem, you know, including the institutions, the government, and other related parties. So I would like to note this, but perhaps my presentation very much biased to the participants, to the banks, or to the Islamic financial institution who very much in line to the venturing into the digital world or digital transformation. Let's start with the digital strategy. It is very important, but it's not enough. We need also infrastructure. Infrastructure, you know, digital infrastructure is also very important. Enhancing online and mobile banking platform for the banks is really very important and very fundamental. And then embracing digital payment as part of Governor Perry topic this morning, we clearly heard from Dr. Perry that payment is part of a digital world that seems to me everyone should take care. And then personalized customer experience is very much related to the technology, you know. Creating experience now perhaps very important topic for every participant of the digitalization or digital transformation, you know, particularly in a bank. So I'm very much, as I said, I'm very much perhaps representing the industry, how then the industry should prepare venturing into the new world, digitalization or digital transformation. Starting from the strategy and then infrastructure and then how to create more positive experience. Creating positive experience is also very important. And it is all about technology because without supported by a technology, it is almost impossible to create, you know, more positive experience for every client of Islamic financial institution. And then improve cybersecurity measures. We discussed this morning earlier with Dr. Perry about this issue. Everyone very much concerned on the cybersecurity. It is part of the technology development. That's why we have to be ready. And it is part of our readiness toward or venturing into the digital transformation. And then digital lending solution is part of product that should create it under digitalization. Open banking seems to me part of the product as well. Investing in digital marketing is the way we do marketing, digitally. I think it is also should be owned by every single Islamic financial institution, in particular bank, focus on continuous innovation. It is very important. This morning we also talk about the AI or the data analytic capabilities of our companies or our industry. It is also very important. And last but not least, we are talking about people, staff, and culture who support the transformation from what we are now into what we are going to do in the new world. Ladies and gentlemen, this is basically the conclusion of my speech, actually. We start from the end of our presentation. So preparing ourselves to venturing into the new world is really something that not easy. Then we have to prepare. That's why then, at least from bank's point of view or financial institution point of view, we need a proper strategy, we need a proper infrastructure, we need to create relevant product, we have to provide protection, and of course we must be supported by the appropriate staff and digital talents. The next question is perhaps how then the regulatory agencies should respond on this particular. Because it seems to me it is also important. The objective of the regulatory objective is basically there perhaps to provide the balance between protection in one side and push or promoting innovation. That's perhaps the key objective of the regulation, particularly financial regulation. Strike the balance between promoting protection and supervision on one side and promoting innovation on the other side. So it's very much related to our topic today that as far as innovation concerned, we are dealing with the appropriate technology issues that we discussed, and protection, we're dealing with the supervision or regulation by the authority to make sure that everything under control. So, ladies and gentlemen, so from 2 points, from the regulatory agency's point of view, and from the participant point of view, I think it is also very important to recognize the important preparation to go, into the new world that we have talk about is about the digitalization. This is perhaps our situation at the moment. When we are talking about the inclusion, we still have a little bit issues on the literacy and the inclusion issues. Is still very, very typical of the emerging economy. Indonesia is one of that. That's as part of the background. So financial inclusion is still lagging. And then growth opportunity is huge because as far as the Islamic financial concern, just only 7 or 6% the market share still. So the opportunity to growth is huge and seems to me it is very important opportunity. And then this one, I would like to discuss a little bit. It is according to our survey. Identify customer based on functional, emotional, and spiritual values. As we see in the screen, according to our survey, or survey conducted by the consultant actually, there are 4 different type of the customer of Islamic financial institution. And the reason why they're dealing with the Islamic financial product or instruments, you know, the biggest one, actually not the biggest one, we differentiate between the conformists, that we call it, those who are part of the conformist, meaning it must be Sharia. And then the second one, we call it the universalists, functional and benefit preferences. As far as it is providing benefit, they choose the Islamic services, the rationalists, and the last is the apathist. This is part of the important information to formulate the strategy, you know, because how then we approach this type of market, it is also very important. That's why then we have to have a clear strategy to dealing with this. In our approach, is basically we have to targeting customer very closely, individually, and then creating Islamic ecosystem, and then the wholesale. And then the next one, as a chairman of the BSI, I would like to mention this. How then BSI should approach these issues? You know, as a mandate that we got from the stakeholders, there are very important expectations from the shareholders. The first one is BSI should be universal bank, optimizing technology and digital, bank that attractive to the millennial generation and competitive and meets the needs of the all segment. Pak Perry was rightly mentioned about the Rahmatan lil Alamin this morning. I think that's perhaps very important message that we have to deliver, that Islamic financial institution, whatever it is, you know, should be universal, should be competitive, and should be Rahmatan lil Alamin. So that's why with this current of objective, we have to set up or formulate appropriate strategy, taking into consideration the survey that I just mentioned earlier, the different type of clients within Islamic community. So strategy is very important, and that's why then it is part of the very critical factor for our journey. Transformation starts with a digitalization in a bank, starting from very basic omni-channel, super apps, and bank as a service. I think this part of approach, you know, how then we can collaborate or develop our infrastructure to reach a very potential, as I mentioned earlier, inclusion is still very low level. This is also the product that Bank Syariah in Indonesia, not only BSI of course, can provide, starting from very basic into very advanced, up to the issue of the spiritual, financials, and lifestyle as well. So what I would like to say with this kind of objective, to reach huge topic and huge topic and also objective, I think it is almost impossible without supporting by digital resources or digital infrastructure. That's why preparation to move forward from this particular situation into the new world, as I mentioned earlier, is really very important. How to reach that with an appropriate support by appropriate infrastructure. And this is also a little bit ecosystem that perhaps the services should be reached, a lot of potential ecosystem as far as the Islamic financial institution concerned, starting from Islamic schools, mosques, pesantren, as mentioned earlier by Governor, JISWAP, halal industry, Hajj and Umrah and others. This is only several topics that been discussing for quite a while. So, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of ecosystem that's very much possible to reach by, introducing the role of technology on our banks. And last but not least, we would like to have a kind of even bigger instruments or tools to reach wider scope of clients, starting not only as a financial partner, but also as a social partner and also a spiritual partner. This is actually the apps that every single Islamic financial institution should have, because Islamic financial institutions should be talking about not only financial issues, but also social and spiritual. We in the BSE is already provide this a kind of strategy to deal with. With that, I should thank you for your attention, and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Good. Thank you, Prof. Mulyaman. I think he touched very important aspect and start with digital space. And if I want to give a little bit summary of what he have mentioned, I think 4 different aspects. The first one on strategy of digitalizations, we need them. And then he emphasized the fact that in Indonesian case, financial inclusion is still below global average. And then the share of Islamic financial sector is still low at 7%, emphasizing the fact that there are huge potentials for Indonesia to grow. But then we need strategy, and one of the strategies that has been highlighted in his speech is identifying customers. And then he brings the case of the role of BSI in promoting digitalizations as well as financial inclusions. Now, we discuss here on the digital aspect before we move into cultural aspect and religions by Prof. Iftikhar. And since Prof. Mulyaman have to leave first, I would like to open to the floor the Q&A. I will open up 2 or 3 questions. Please identify yourself, and then please be brief. There's no need for a long background of your questions. Right? Just direct to Prof. Mulyaman if you have anything to ask. Or can I get one? Okay, and then at the back there, Prof. Raditya. And the third one, okay, we have 3. So we start with the middle one first.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Nagib, and I am from Triple IU, Depok. My question is, BSE is a very big bank in Indonesia, but several months ago, there experienced a very serious attack, cyber attack, and the ecosystem is shut down nearly about 1 or 2 weeks. So my question is, what lesson learned you can share to us about the cyber attack? Thank you very much.
Okay, we go to yes. You want to answer directly, or we go to second? We collect. So, Prof. Raditya from at the back.
Thank you, Prof. Mansur. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Raditya Sukmana from Ustaz Erlangga, Surabaya. Very enlightening presentation, Prof. Mulyaman. My question is about the existence of digital bank. So you have mentioned about the digitalization, particularly on the industry, especially on your bank, but how do you see the existence of digital bank in the context of Indonesia, whereby Muslim population, 200 million people, and not to mention how many study program, 700 study program on Islamic economics, finance, banking. Where do they go if Islamic bank move towards like digital bank or digitalization? Thank you very much.
Okay, so we have the last one from this side.
Thank you very much. My name is Salahuddin Ahmad from Triple IU. It's very, very interesting, and the question is about the why the BSI, Bank Syariah Indonesia, cannot capture the biggest bank in Indonesia, because we know that the Syariah Bank is already almost 20 years in Indonesia, but it is cannot become the biggest bank in Indonesia compared with other banks. It is the digital factors or not about this one? Because we know the biggest bank also have the very, very sophisticated digital infrastructure. Thank you.
Okay, Prof, all about BSI.
Thank you very much. I asked to speak first because, you know, I have another appointment after this presentation. That's why I asked before the two speakers. Thank you very much for the very good questions. The first one on the cyber attack. You know, cyber attacks is now becoming a kind of common event in our industry. As I understood that it is not only here, we are here in Indonesia, but also in other parts of the globe. The question is perhaps not necessarily associated with BSI, but I also heard that not only BSI who got also the attack, public companies, public or private companies, public institutions, even government agencies as well. You know, my point is basically cyber attack is our common issues. It is part of the issues very much related to the digitalization or digital transformation that we experience very recently. I think we rarely heard about the cyber attack a decade ago, but now cyber attack becoming more frequent. The event is, it seems to me, very much well anticipated, and a lot of people put a lot of interest how then we have to respond this. So my point is basically we have to prepare, as Governor Perry mentioned, the ups and the downs of the digital transformation. You know, we benefiting a lot, but then at the bottom line we have to be prepared for the how we have to manage the risk management issues related to the cyber attack. You know, as far as the BSI concerned, as mentioned earlier, we've been experiencing this. It is a lot of lesson learned, as you mentioned earlier. The most important experience, I think I come to three important aspects. The first one is about security. Security is important. How we be able to develop our own IT security in our home, in our bank. You know, you can invest, you can spend a lot of money to buy sophisticated tools or latest application and so on and so forth. But my point is we have to be sure that security is important. But perhaps it is not enough, because it is also associated with the security. We have to regularly penetrate our system, regularly, testing our system regularly, and then make sure that our system will be all right. Even on purpose, we penetrate our system regularly and review regularly, and be more proactive to watch very closely, even regularly. So my point is we have to be so after we make sure that security is there, but we have to penetrate regularly, and even we have to have a kind of crisis management. I mean, if similar event happen in the near future or in the future, we have a kind of protocols. Who doing what? In the first minute, in the second minute, in the fifth minute, because we are talking not about days or months or week, we are talking about minutes. That's why then it is very important. Crisis management as part of the, part of the, make sure that everything will be stabilized. And the third one, so we have the first one is security, the second was about the kind of the agility, and the third one is about preparedness. Preparedness meaning that if the similar event happening in the future, we should be ready. In this part, I'm talking about the culture should be embedded. Culture of more proactive, culture more be positive, dealing with this kind of issues, and also creating a pool of digital talent is also very important. So because it is very crucial to have digital talent in our own home or our own financial institution. So there are three important things. Security is one thing, after we investing a lot of money, for example, but then we have to be able to develop more appropriate culture and behavior and do kind of technical penetration regularly is part of the lesson that I learned from any event related to the cyber attack. The second question is about digital banks, and a lot of questions related if we digitalize everything, what happened with our kids and our sons now studying in Islamic finance or Islamic economic. Well, shifting from our current situation into our new world is really something. That's why then perhaps educators, universities should be also taking into consideration this transition. I would like to mention about link and match between what universities or education institution provide for the student and what really market needs in line, in order to in line always with the needs. So it is also very important. That's why then curriculum review of the universities who provided Islamic finance and also close connection and collaboration with the industry is really something that we need to have to our universities. That's why it is one thing that seems to me is also very important. Digital banks, well, I should be careful to say digital bank because digital bank in Indonesia is still digital. It is still a bank that provides digital services. Different with digital bank in Europe or in in Europe or in Singapore, that purely digital bank. I do think it is also one of our concern at the moment, how we have to differentiate between digital bank, purely digital bank, and general bank who provide digital services. So that's two different regime as far as the regulatory concern. I think it is very interesting topic actually. I think we can discuss later perhaps, sorry, what two different things between these two. I am very excited to talk, that's why then. So that's about the digital banking. From regulatory point of view, I think we have to differentiate between purely digital and general bank who provide digital services. And then in my view, we need a kind of different regulatory regime and approach doing this. In Indonesia, we still at the level of general bank who provide digital services. I think this is my point. The last one is about, if I may, it is about developing opportunities, these huge opportunities, you know, particularly for a Islamic financial institution. Development of Islamic ecosystem is important. Perhaps that's my point. How we leverage this Islamic financial ecosystem is really the key to accelerate the growth. And then, unfortunately, it needs digitalization and it needs capital to support it. That's my answer. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Prof. And I know that he has to leave due to some other engagements. Thanks. So before he leaves, let us put a hand for Prof. Mulyaman. Okay, we have touched on the first keyword, digitalization, and talked a little bit on digital space. And one of the key points that has been mentioned is on culture. Right? So we are going to look into the cultural resilience and religions and economic recovery for the second part. But before I call for Prof. Iftikhar to give his talk, let me introduce him first. He's E. Gerald Corrigan Chair in Finance, Academic Director of the PhD program, and Co-Director of the Center for Research in Contemporary Finance at the Gabli School of Business, Fordham University. And he's a managing editor of GFS, Journal of Financial Stability, and he has more than 450 publications, and more than 350 journal publications, and of course, look at each H-index. Tell us everything regarding his excellent work that he has done in the academia. And he has served as advisor, visiting scholars at various institutions, including the Central Bank of Finland. So I would like to invite Prof. Iftikhar to share your thought on the topic.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor Mansoor Ibrahim. I wanted to first start with saying good morning and salam to everybody. And good morning to Professor Miriam Digwin. And I think some of the guests has left, but I wanted to also thank the organizers, the GIMF and the editorial board, the BRI colleagues, Dr. Ridwan. I'm very privileged and honored to be part of this event today. And I think the way you have organized this event, the way the program and the participants coming in, I already find that you have made a significant progress in enhancing the value and the dream of this journal and organization. Today, I think, as I think about the speech the governor has given, it is very hard to follow with some academic work because his speech, honestly, even though he was extempo, his words were spiritually rich and philosophically insightful. If you think about what he talked about today, he talked about the issues about digitalization, inclusiveness, and sustainability. But he brought this issue from two aspects. He brought it from the positive externality and the negative externality and pressed this issue by bringing three important issues I think is significant in all of our work today is related to that. One is benefit for common people. I think I wrote it down. He mentioned that business ethics in this inclusiveness. And third issue is profit is important, but it is a shared profit, where not only the stockholder, the stakeholder has a say. So in some sense, the overall intention of all our academic research, some of which I will share with you today, but I wanted to go back to the key component of today's topic, that if this is not inclusiveness, if it is not for common people, if it does not have ethics, and if it does not have a shared profit motivation, we are not going to be able to achieve the goal. Now, today I was asked to talk about this aspect of resilience, and I wanted to, given that a lot of colleagues and young researchers are here, I would share with you how this research idea came and how do I achieve the research idea differently as I went and looked into the data and worked together. Even it is about, the paper came out to be the cultural resilience, the role of religion in economic recovery. But my whole idea in this aspect was that whenever there was a financial crisis, and you saw that individuals have written so many different papers in books and others to see why some institutions did better than others, why some society has been more resilient than others. We have seen this again in the COVID-19 environment. Many research idea talks about the resilience of a society, resilience of a company, and so on and so forth. So in this aspect, I always thought about that in my mind when we started this particular paper was the role of culture, role of where we are from, where we are grown up, how that makes an impact. So in my mind, I share with you always to think about that when I grew up, my mother always told me, hey, listen, Iftikhar, whenever you are eating fruits, do not drink water immediately after that. Now, is it the right thing to do? My mother is not a medical doctor. My mother is not a dietitian. But my mother told me that you don't drink water after eating fruits. And I'm a grown-up, I'm an old human being now, but I still follow that I do not take water after eating fruits. Now, that tells that there's some sort of cultural aspect of things stays with us. We do not question it sometimes to see whether it is right or wrong, and others, this embedded component coming in. So along the line I was thinking about is that when a crisis come in, and in this particular case that I'm thinking about now, a little bit technically, those of you are researcher, it not coming not from endogeneity, but from exogeneity aspect. Endogeneity aspect is, I have experienced, let's say, you have seen papers, the people who have, CEOs who have experienced 1930s recession, they are conservative in their CEO decision making. They do not borrow money in the market because they are very conservative, because they have experience of tremendous economic downturn. Similarly, there are papers people have shown that the retail investors who has been experienced the natural calamity of typhoon and others using Taiwanese data or Japanese data, they find out these retail investors are a lot more riskier than others. But this sort of behavior is, in some sense, is not totally exogenous, because you're looking at individuals and their experiences. So in my mind, it came in that a lot of time we do not experience something our own, but it comes the embedded cultural heritage that we have. So the example I gave you about the fruits and water is something that I have embedded from the upbringing of my own. So I give you an example here from the Indonesian context. So you think about two individuals, they are growing up in Jakarta, and both individuals come from two different parts of Jakarta. One person grew up, let's say, in Central Java, and one person originally come from Central Java, and other person, grandparents originally come from, let's say, from Aceh province or some province which is next to the water. So in some sense, the natural disaster experience is higher for those individuals who are coming closer to the area where there is a water compared to those who are inland. So in the US context, we think about if somebody is coming from a background of an Irish background, and even the person is not from Ireland. 3 generations ago, great-grandparents come from Ireland. In this particular case, they might have heard stories that their great-grandfather has survived 1926 poverty and economic hardship by eating 7 potatoes in 7 people shared for 3 days, and they survived. So in this sort of scenario, somebody else who did not go through the same experience, their ancestors, idea that we had in our mind was that even if you did not experience, but you heard stories from your families that your forefathers, others have gone through similar experience, that particular thinking process stays in your subnormal mind, and when there is a crisis comes in, and that crisis creates this old embedded latent understanding comes in, and people survive better. So in this particular case, we were trying to see in the beginning of this paper that to see individuals in the United States, we went to each particular region of United States, and we gave a shock of Hurricane Katrina and other hurricanes in the southeast part of the United States, and we wanted to find out people who are more resilient coming back after the crisis, and we wanted to see how their cultural heritage. So we went and found out that each community where people are Italians, whether people are from Ireland, people are from Germany, we created each individual area to figure out what are the population, and then we went back 100 years of experience of natural disaster in this community in different parts of the world. And this 100 years of experience, none of these individuals currently are experiencing that. This is their generations where they come from. We tried to see whether that experience has somehow embedded in their natural ability to be resilient when a crisis comes in. But you will see that my results in this paper do come out to be okay, but we did not find that result in the forefront, okay? And wanted to see that how a particular referee has pushed us towards to say, you have talked to me all of this culture, you have talked to me all of this background and have significantly good work, but have you looked into the religiosity of the society? Have you looked at the people who are in that community, how much they are going to the church, how much they are going to the mosque, how many times they're going to the temple? Can you collect that data and try to see whether the religiosity is actually overwhelming the cultural heritage, the things that I'm talking about, and when we bring this particular religiosity as both as the availability of religious facility as well as the amount of implementation, observant of religiosity in the community, we find in this particular paper that the most resilient organization, resilient society is where people are more religious. And then from there, I'm going to give you the background of this particular research, and I will show you how thoroughly we have gone and achieved this particular result, even though this is not the result we were looking for. We were looking for the cultural heritage is more important. Here, the culture shifted towards the observance of religiosity and its impact. I think in any society, if you think about whenever there is a crisis, the religious organization, whether it's in Islamic society, whether it's in a Christian society, every society, religious organizations are tremendously go forward to help others. And they go forward to help others without thinking too much of a cost-benefit perspective. And it is their natural perspective. And I think this is not only academic work, it's also in a daily life we see that. And anytime there's a disaster, it is the religious organization in all society, they go forward. Large number of papers have written in this area. So I am not going to give today's paper in a typical fashion of a research paper. I present usually. I am going to talk to you more of a storytelling perspective. There are a lot of motivation in this particular perspective, that in some sense I gave a shock here with natural disaster. You don't have to give this shock thinking process with climate changes. You could give this with a COVID shock. You could give any particular shock in a particular company. It could be fire, after the fire of a city. So any sort of natural disaster is the shock for this particular research. And in this particular aspect, we find people before us looked at this issue in a multiple different crises in multiple different ways. People have looked into issues related to the earthquake, people looked into flood, people looked into pandemics, but in World War, Spanish flu, but none of these papers actually looked at this cultural heritage, religiosity, and embedded culture coming in. They have not been focused on that. And in this particular paper, that's what we try to see, whether the cultural heritage embedded in us has a different sort of element in being a resilient in the time of crisis. I think when it comes to the economics of religion, Robert Barrow at Harvard, he is the editor of QJE. He has written significant paper, followed by Guizhou, and all of this paper is in a significant journal where they think religion is important in economic decision making. Their papers are not associated with resilience, they are associated with the economic decision making of individuals. And this is a crowd I don't have to think and talk about, because we are here today is because the Islamic finance, the religious aspect of finance is an important aspect in our decision making, and this is the reason you find out that we gather together, and this journal that we are celebrating today is the mechanism of lauding this particular message to see decision making could be also based on individuals' own cultural heritage. So we take this particular aspect, we bring the religion, as I talked to you about religious organization, and how there is social insurance and how they create a helpful in reducing individuals' anxiety, whether this is done philosophically, it is done behaviorally, whether it is done through prayers, but it has a significant impact. In this particular paper, we are not going to be able to really identify separately 100% how much of it coming from the persuasion, how much is coming from the strength of believing in something, thinking about the creator. We are going to be focused more about that our own particular aspect of religiosity, and you'll see it is not based on a dummy variable. The crisis is not based on a dummy variable. We go extremely detailed to sort out this resilient component. I think the concept I talked about, intergenerational, and I think we all think about this issue. When we grew up, we go to a prayer with our grandfather, we go to a particular event with the grandmother, and this sort of issue, as I got older, it is tremendously stays in our mind in such a significant way that it does not go away anything as much as other things we read, other things we learn in our own, and we are trying to quantify to see this experience we have, our intergenerational, our grandparents and great-grandparents, with that stays in our mind in such a way that it is going to be important. And talking about that, I want to make a humor that when I grew up, my mother always told me that you have to come home when the sun set, it's evening. When evening is coming in, you cannot stay outside. And as an older man, whenever it's in the evening, I kind of think about, oh, I have to go home. I have to come up with some good excuses why I'm outside. And this did not go away. And those of you who are parents, you do the same thing with your kids. We all do. So take it, this aspect, and I'm visualizing this religion's differential treatment effect on economic performance. And here, in general, we are trying to show that it is not something, a direct correlation we can bring in with showing a model, create a variable. We're making this a little bit of latent variable where all of it cannot be captured all the time 100% the way we do, and that's what we try to do that with some social psychology, social philosophy, and religious literature into the process and try to capture this in a simple model. What we do, we track all the hurricane tracks, and we don't create a dummy variable that here there was this hurricane and there was no hurricane over here, because it is not very much easy to say that hurricane is only one particular area, natural disaster one area. We went and took the wind speed. We took the NASA data, take the wind speed, so that there's a continuity variable with regards to the extent of hurricane, extent of natural disaster. In this particular case, that in the beginning, the research, before our research, people have taken a dummy variable, but this county was natural disaster, this county did not. I think that's a very crude way of doing things. We made this literature contribution by bringing wind speed as a way to capture the natural disaster. This way we figure out every possible way who is affected how much. The intensity of the natural disaster is captured. Then we go back to the local business activities. Here also we make a contribution. Our contribution is significant here that we don't trace the corporations. We trace the branches of corporations. We trace the establishment of corporations, so that if I'm a corporation based in New York, I could have 1,600 establishments. Some of them are in natural disasters area. Some of them are not in natural disaster area. So if I give an establishment fixed effect in this particular ways, I can see within the same company which particular establishment is more resilient relative to which establishment are not resilient. By approaching the research project at the establishment level, this is the first paper that really could capture at the establishment level within the same company how there is the heterogeneity in their resilience based on the local religious environment and cultural heritage. So we have data on each county level, the religious data. We know how many church, how many mosque, how many temple are there in each county. We also know how many people go to church, how many people go to mosque, how many people go to temple. We also have this number to create some sort of extent of intensity of religiosity in this particular place. And you know, here we give some idea about if you would have taken this data only based on wind speed, and if you look at the religious adherence in the country, you can see that where the religiosity intensity is higher in the United States, and our first picture is where the natural disasters, the dark area is the place where the natural disasters took place. So we simply look at the labor productivity. We look at individual organizations, individual establishments, labor productivity. And the idea here is that whether the labor productivity before and after the disaster, which establishment, which companies are coming back quickly in enhancing their productivity in the pre-level of the natural disaster or higher than everybody else. That was we want to capture in this particular method. And you can see that in general, it doesn't matter what community you are, natural disaster create productivity to go down. Everybody is hurt by the natural disaster. You can see that they decline and there's something going up. But if I really create the actual religiosity picture, intensity of religiosity of each county, and that look at with a fixed effect with the establishment, you can see in the right-hand side of the graph, you can immediately see in a DID difference in difference estimation, you can see in the right-hand side a significant decline in everybody, but you can find out that soon, in the first shot, there is a decline. In the second shot, we will see, I'm going to come and show you, in the first shot, there is a decline in the post environment. And you have to trust me on the academic side. It is very, very thorough paper. We did everything possible scientifically to see that we can tease out exactly the cultural heritage, exactly the natural disaster, pre-post environment, and we follow that. We do all sorts of alternative tests, alternative clustering, placebo tests. We follow every possible way to see there's no multiple, there are no outliers, and we look at the typical aspect. Then we try to take our DID. Here we simply go and look at the post time, the disaster times, the religious environment, and we kind of find out that in the environment, whether there's a religiosity, the counties where there are higher amount of religious commitment, the heritage of religiosity is strong, in those counties, they have bounced back faster with regards to the productivity and labor productivity. This is our second result after the decline for everyone. And you can see clearly there is a decline for everyone, but whenever those counties that are religious counties, people are more religious and they have significantly increased in their labor productivity. It's very clean test and a very clean DID in a dynamic panel. And I think, again, the result shows up in different possible way. We look at separately for Protestants, we look at separately for Catholic majority counties, we look separately for the mainstream Christian religious area. We look at the Islamic counties where the proportion of Islamic people is in a higher proportion. In each area, in a different significance level maybe, but it is both statistically and economically significant that religiosity creates an environment where people quickly adjust to the understanding that this has been, some sort of, this is, I'm interpreting, it is not something we can show, that this heritage, this latent variable makes them to feel stronger, to come back with something bigger faith, in a bigger kind of player who is the creator against our own will. We know this has happened because there is a reason for it, that we have to come and move forward, and that's the result we are finding in every possible way, in every possible aspect. Then I go back to this particular variable that I started the paper with. It is an idea that I wrote the paper actually with one of my ex-PhD students, and later on we had to bring other co-authors because it's a huge undertaking with regards to the data availability and others and so on, with equal right to everybody. I'm not trying to say somebody is co-author just because of data, but we had to go to make this thing bigger. Here I go back to simply look at the ancestor experience. So in this particular case, when we find out the ancestors' experience without the religiosity, it does not show up. But after the religiosity is established, if we interact that in counties where religiosity is important, but happen to be those religious people also have an ancestors' experience of previous natural disaster, there is a significant effect. So in some sense, that's why the paper is more about a religiosity and cultural heritage, because in this particular case, we find out that it is both are important, but in the order of importance, religiosity comes first, and the cultural and heritage of natural disaster comes number 2. And we have to really do a very careful work here. We want to show that these places are higher productive because these places have more religiosity. That means they have more religious organization. Religious organizations are always very good in giving help. They are very good in distributing disaster relief and so on and so forth. So we actually went and looked at the variables that are related to the network of the religiosity as a separately, and we find that our paper, our results are not affected by the number of religious organizations in that county or the amount of network they have with others did not take the result away. So in some sense, we are trying to distinguish that religiosity is not influenced by organization, number of organization and so on. It itself has some sort of latent cultural heritage in their mind, and that's what we try to establish. We go then second, we will look at the religious membership, and we try to see, is it the religious organization in this area, that these organizations have big members, these big members try to create their own network and they give relief to themselves. We went and looked at the membership of each individuals in that society. We take them out separately. We still find productivities to be upward, even without those who are member of a particular organization. This way, we establish one more time that the embedded religiosity, embedded cultural heritage is important. And I think then we kind of think about that maybe after natural disaster, some people left, some new people came in. Maybe this labor productivity is not based on existing people. This productivity is because of the migration of people coming in, going out. We go and try to look into this result and find out that influx of people are not associated, new influx of people or leaving the people from here is not associated with the resilience. It is the religiosity that is in the key component. And I think that I do not want to go detail on that we actually look at amount of donation came from the government, amount of donation came from the relief agency in each area. We go to the procurement office of the US government, find each procurement in the places, and we find out that amount of relief procurement and relief, disaster relief is not associated with the result. Controlling for that, again, the religiosity comes in the picture. And it was not donation, it was not the number of NGO or number of non-profit organization. And it is also possible, is there a favoritism by the individuals who are in the government? So we go and look at the government who are in the Ways and Means Committee, the government which are involved in the disaster relief area. We look at each congressman, we look at each individuals in high position, look at their hometown, and then control for those individuals and show that it is nothing to do with the government involved. Yes, I see the timeout. I'm going to be done in a minute. And I think you saw the picture of my whole conversation is to see, we were doing our best to capture, to see whether the economic shock in a particular area, how the labor productivity resilience come in. We brought a new hypothesis that cultural heritage, in this particular case, number one is the religiosity of people and their observant of religiosity, and number two is the cultural heritage of their family forefathers, their experience in the previous 100 years, and that has embedded impact in people's mind. This comes as a forefront. So resilience, a lot of time, is not by having more donation, it's not by having more network or more relief agency. It is sometimes more than that. It is the inner core aspect of the belief system, core aspect of cultural heritage that is associated with this outcome, and this is what we establish in this paper. Once again, it's my privilege to share this research with you, and once again, I thank everyone for giving me the opportunity to speak to you. Thank you.
Okay, very, very interesting. Every time I listen to Prof. Istika, I don't want him to stop because of so many insights that he has given. And in fact, what he has presented, robust, comprehensive evidence of the importance of religions. And it brings me to my mind in terms of Islamic finance and sustainability agenda, for example. And sustainability agenda by United Nations, UN 17 SDGs are driven by the need for us to be sustainable. Otherwise, we are not going to survive. But then Islamic finance are more driven by our adherence to religions, which will make us to be more adaptive, perhaps, into coping with the crisis. Right? So let me move to the third one before we open up for Q&A. I know you have so many questions that you would like to ask at the end, but I would like to move to Prof. Mariam's, a short brief of Prof. Mariam's, Aviva Chair in Risk and Insurance, Nottingham University Business Schools. And she's the founder and co-director of Infinity, the inclusive fintech hubs. I think She's basically one of the most active women professors, flying here, flying there. And sometimes you have to keep track with her, take care of your health due to the busy schedule. And just received a grant from Research England, £1.4 million, and has been recognized as top professor in fintech and Islamic finance. And she would touch on financial literacy, the inclusivity, and digital finance by bringing a case study. So I would like to invite Prof. To do your speech.
Thank you very much, Professor Mansour, for this great introduction. Before I start, I would like to thank Bank Indonesia Institute for this very kind invitation. It's a privilege to be here again. I'm delighted to visit Jakarta and meet our old friends and meet new friends in this occasion. Today, my topic is going to be about unlocking the potential, leveraging the financial literacy for greater inclusivity in the digital financial landscape. Before I start, I would like to refer to the Governor Perry's inspiring talk about the significance of inclusivity. Inclusiveness is extremely important, not only for emerging economies, but for advanced economies. I would like to start my talk with the definition that we all aware from the inclusiveness perspective. So, according to World Bank 2022 definition, the inclusiveness is related with individuals and businesses having access to useful and affordable financial products and services to meet their needs. So these could be in terms of transactions, payments, savings, credit, and insurance. And these should be delivered in a sustainable and responsible way. Financial inclusion is very important among the UN SDGs, UN Sustainable Development Goals 2030. It is positioned prominently as an enabler of other developmental goals. And here we can say that financial inclusion is a cornerstone of development. And here we see that this is featured as a target in 8 of the 17 goals. This brings us to the importance of UN SDG 8, which is the promotion of sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment, and decent work for everyone. This UN SDG, UN Sustainable Development Goal, has 12 targets in total, and this should be achieved by 2030. And here we have to emphasize the importance of universal access to banking, insurance, and financial services. 8.10, 8.10 also has two other indicators, and one of these indicators is the number of commercial bank branches, as well as number of ATMs per 100,000 individuals. And the second important target to achieve as per 8.10 is the proportion of adults. Here we are talking about adults age 15 plus with an account or with an account at a bank or having bank access via mobile provider. So these are all the financial inclusion related requirements for UN SDGs, which brings us to some statistics to find out what we are doing in terms of achieving these targets. So here I bring you some statistics from World Bank Global Findex Index, which is Global Financial Index Inclusion Index. This index, this database, has been collected by World Bank since 2011. The database has been definitive source of data on the ways which adults around the world using financial services. So this cover from payments to savings and borrowing, managing financial events such as major expenses or loss of income. And this is using the nationally representative surveys. According to this database, colleagues, 70% of adults in developing economies now, they have a formal financial account compared to 42% a decade ago when the first edition of the database was launched. So here, the gap in access to finance between men and women in developing economies has fallen from 9% points to 6% points. So there is improvement, as you can see, according to World Bank Financial Inclusion Index. So let's look at the statistics coming from General Council for Islamic Banks and Financial Institutions. So according to GCIBF statistics, in 2022, let me have some water. In 2022, 900 million or 1.3 billion global unbanked population are Muslims. This is a very important statistics. Here, Muslim majority countries have 20% lower rate of participation in active borrowing and 29% lower rate of having a bank account. These statistics are coming from Muslim world. So there is an improvement globally, but this, as you can see with the figures, still problematic for Muslim countries. Now, I would like to take you to those communities. They are rural and low-income communities. They can be in Indonesia, they can be in Africa, they can be in any other country or region. These are rural and low-income communities, and they often lack financial tools, and they often lack digital literacy. In their context, technology on its own is not a panacea. It's not sufficient. What sort of approach we should follow to help these communities? If you could see from the slide, I highlighted people-first approach required in red for a reason. Because it's a must that we focus on people first, so that we can be able to achieve these 2030 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So enhancing digital financial literacy, I believe, and many of us believe, and you have heard the governor's inspiring talk, digital financial literacy can empower all of us, can empower underserved communities in every part of the world. Here, we need to follow the approach of having customized training and mobile tech, which can provide localized financial skills. And here, the research has shown us that training will boost their confidence and ability to manage money and grow their income digitally. I'm bringing here today a current research that we are doing on Africa. This research project is funded by Royal Academy of Engineering in the UK, and we are extremely privileged to have this funding as Nottingham University leading the project with 2 social enterprises, Rural Inclusion and AgriEvolve. They are the 2 social enterprises in our project. And UNCDF, UN Capital Development Fund, is one of the major partners in our project. This project is all about financial education for rural communities in Africa, and we are utilizing digital approach to reach the coffee farmers, which we believe they are the underserved, underrepresented segments of the community. Giving you some background and motivation about the project, as we may all know that there are 250 million African smallholder farmers. These farmers are challenged by climate change, and they have lack of access to insurance services to mitigate their risks when they are challenged with climate-related issues and problems. Improving financial literacy is a key to promote financial inclusion here, and this project aims to implement education program, and we are using here in our program digital versus conventional approaches to investigate the best practices of increasing financial literacy. With our project, we are aiming to target 3 significant sustainable development goals. The first one is number 8, which is decent work and economic growth. Here, our project aims to improve financial literacy and insurance access in rural Africa, aligning with target 8.1 and 8.8. The second area of sustainable development goal we are targeting is quality education for all. Here, we are utilizing digital tools to boost financial education, targeting SDGs force, targeting 4.4. And finally, we are targeting United Nations Sustainable Development Goal number 13, which is climate action, insurance and awareness programs to mitigate climate risks. We are trying to achieve with this work targeting 13.1 and 13.3. The photo was taken during our fieldwork in Uganda, Kampala, in the Masaka region of Uganda, Africa. These are the coffee farmers, these are the mothers, and these are the people who feel the burden to bring bread to their homes. So we are delighted to enjoy this project because we think that we are adding value to the learning process, to the education process of these people, and they are mainly women farmers working in the coffee fields in rural parts of Uganda. So how do we implement this project? We are conducting at the moment a pilot study investigating the role of education, digital education, and the effective practices of improving financial literacy in rural Uganda. The study is implemented through an education program involving 360 coffee farmers. My dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, this is the starting point for the project. 360 farmers is in our pilot study. In the second stage, we are aiming to reach more farmers. We are aiming to achieve more digital education for these coffee farmers. In our work, the farmers are split into 3 groups, of which one group is receiving digital education delivered by a mobile app, which is called OSRI. And OSRI is developed by our partner, social enterprise partner, Rural Inclusion. And then we track and analyze the perceptual and behavioral changes of the research participants and under the influence of these different education methods. More on OSRI platform, which is developed by Rural Inclusion. Here, we are utilizing the local languages, and we are utilizing the 3D and 2D animated videos to reach our audience. In the modules that we teach, we cover topics regarding financial inclusion, agriculture, climate education, climate adaptation, entrepreneurship, and leadership. Supporting over 57,000 smallholder farmers, refugees, and micro-enterprises in 7 countries. These are the achievements of this very important app that is being used across Africa and now in Latin America. The education program that we are handling in Africa, involving 360 farmers, as I said, have 3 different groups: traditional educational group, digital educational group, and augmented digital education. So these photographs, my dear friends, they were all taken during our fieldwork in June 2023 in Uganda. This shows you the way that the education is being held to skill these farmers, to make them to be aware about climate change, to make them to be aware of how they can manage their income, how they can do management and financial planning, and how they can mitigate risks for the future. This has been our roadmap. We started with a workshop in the UK last year, in 2022, meeting with our partners, deciding on the objectives, deciding on our roadmap, and then the project started in December 2022. And then the program started in June 2023. In July, we had a meeting, we had a workshop organized with United Nations Capital Development Fund in Kampala. And now we are going through the last stages of our education program. And next month, we are disseminating our initial findings in collaboration with our partners in a workshop, in a conference that will be organized in Kampala on the 24th of November. And of course, the second stage of our project will start from next year onwards. So this is bringing me to the latest part of my talk. And here, I would like to talk to you about our project development in Indonesia. We are working very closely with Nusa Tenggara Barat, and we are working on a new project, which is called 3NCASE project. This is Nusa Tenggara Barat, Nottingham, and Net Zero. We are very proud of engaging with this impactful, amazing project, which is a collaborative path to net zero emissions by 2050. The background of this project takes us to the, again, significance of climate changes for the region, which necessitates actions on both global and local scales. Here in NTB province, local people are compromised by climate change and also compounding socioeconomic issues, socioeconomic challenges. So with this collaboration that we are having with the governor and with several offices, regional planning offices, environment departments, we are aiming to handle several projects that can help us to achieve this goal in collaboration with the NTB province and the country. So, what is our project all about? Again, we are focusing on farmers. We are focusing on rice farmers, and as you see, they can be men, they can be women, but these people feel the responsibility, feel the challenges of earning, of mitigating their risk, of having awareness, and of surviving and having resilience. So our project is developing comprehensive and inclusive planning towards net zero emissions. We are aiming to build farmers' resilience towards climate change impacts on organic farming, sustainability literacy, financial literacy, and micro-insurance. And we are aiming to developing financial literacy program for rice farmers in NTB province. I'm coming to the end of my talk, and I know that we are all getting hungry. So last slide, I promise. Now, what we have been talking from the very beginning, my topic was unlocking the potential. Unlocking the potential has challenges, but we can achieve together. We can achieve if we can have the same target together. Not only academia, but central banks, policymakers, local governments. We can all come together and achieve these goals. We have only 7 years left for UN SDGs, UN Sustainable Development Goals. But if we cooperate, if we collaborate, then there is nothing that can stop us. We can all achieve these goals together. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Prof. Mariam. See, a hand already up. I'm not going to make a summary of her talk because priority is yours. So I have hand 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? Let me collect 3 first. The middle, the front ones. Right? Please give a mic, the one that stand up. Right.
Assalamualaikum. Terima kasih, Prof. Mansur. Assalamualaikum. My name is Prayudi Azwar. I'd like to ask Prof. Mariam first, and congratulations for the 2 great projects. My question is related to the financial inclusions that we have being promised by the progress of the peer-to-peer lending several times ago, but now we find the retarding process because of the moral hazard, asymmetric information, maybe lack of supervisions. Maybe you have opinions about that. And to Prof. Iftikhar, always fascinating listening to yours. My question is that you have a robust finding related to the how the religious people have a special coping mechanism, especially under the hardship. But my question is how that could also affect on economic progress, because we understand that there's need a merit system. There's also a need of universalities principles, while some opinions thought that it would become skewed toward communalities. Maybe you can explain about that. And the challenge for us in Islamic economics, especially in measuring the utility functions, in terms of people with this strong religiosity, what the proper utility functions that differ from the common? Thank you.
Okay, let me move to the back. Yeah. Yeah.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, the moderator and the speakers. Before that, I would like also to thank to the community that given me a chance to be here. And I would like to get the opinion from the 2 speakers. It is relating to the country that under the very political and security crisis. We see that there are still many challenges for the individuals and that on that countries to make like kind of trade activity that relating to the financial scheme. From your experience, since I saw from your presentations, Professor Ikhtisar and Madam, you have made some observation, experiment in the crisis countries, and for this situation, how this meeting, this collaboration can overcome for those individuals who has in the political and security crisis. Thank you very much, Hinsi.
Okay, let me get in front here. You stand up so that people can give you the mic. And hopefully we have time. We will move to this side later on. We look at the middle first.
Thank you. I am Muhammad Saru Jallo from Universitas Islam International Indonesia. So thank you very much for giving me the chance to ask my question. My question is directly to Professor Mayam. Your presentation was very insightful. So financial literacy is very important in attaining financial inclusion. But like you touched, the rural farmers, mostly they are the underprivileged, they are the deprived people when it comes to financial inclusion because they lack access to finance. As we all know that most of the financial institutions are mainly profit-driven. So they don't establish their branches in rural areas. So my question is, are you working with financial institutions like banks to have in their mind that, profit should not only be their main motive, but how can they have access, how can they give farmers who are the main producers of raw materials, how can they give them soft loans, easy financing, so that at least they can also be included in the financial system? Thank you.
Can I request Prof. Iftikhar? Yeah.
I think the first question with regards to how much this resilience shows up in economic growth, economic development. I don't have a macro evidence in this in a macro way, but it is significant with looking at the corporate level, at the establishment level, local level. We are trying to show that there is a significant impact on the productivity of lay individuals and others. And I think I understood your question about that whether the religiosity or anything of that sort creates some familiarity, creates some behavior that favor one group to other. In the long run, it is conducive to economic behavior or not. I would not like to talk about my own work, but if you have a chance to see, I have a particular work in this area. Is called Corporate Moral Values. It is done with Stefano Manfredonia, and the whole idea is following a social psychologist named Jonathan Haidt, H-A-I-D-T, and he has significant work in this area beyond mine, and you will find out there that individuals, it doesn't have to do with religiosity, individuals sometimes prefer other individuals based on some sort of communal perspective. It could be, I like to play chess, so if I find somebody is coming for a job, also plays chess, I prefer that person. Or the football club I support, that person supports the same football club, I prefer that person. So in this case, that this universal behavior that you don't think about at all the person's background, and you simply choose the person based on merit, it is associated with the higher growth, higher potential, but in reality, it is not the case. We all make this sort of adjustment. If you read the paper, you'll find out how we make our decision on hiring and firing and how communal behavior and universal behavior comes into the picture. And the question from here with regards to the environment of politics, environment of security, I do not have a macro answer. All I think about in our evidence, it is a crisis. In this particular case, this crisis also was some sort of security crisis because the natural disaster have taken away, flooded my home or take away the roof. So in some sense, this commitment to come back quickly, even after having a disaster, this labor productivity probably is true in other occasions. People have shown in earthquake, people have shown that in flood. So I'm assuming that whichever other experiment can come in, it is very plausible that it would affect the same way. Thank you.
Thank you very much for all these excellent questions. I will start with the question coming from the gentleman at the back, peer-to-peer lending related. I think peer-to-peer lending, when you look at Indonesian case, it is working very well. I see very successful examples coming from companies like Investri, Amana. You have very impressive Sharia-compliant peer-to-peer lending programs and other types of peer-to-peer lending. Of course, we could have issues with peer-to-peer lending, and we have seen this with the case coming from China. Such lending process has been left without regulation at the beginning by Chinese authorities. But then we have seen how there had been lots of problems, and these problems now made the government, made the country to rethink their approach and start thinking about how they can regulate and how they can manage this lending process in a more appropriate and more effective way. This is really a very learning process, and I think the Chinese case, their peer-to-peer lending success and their peer-to-peer lending challenges can teach many countries a number of lessons. And I think in your case here, I can see that there are lots of great examples, lots of great practices, but at the end of the day, there should be some regulation coming from the policymakers. But at the same time, that regulation should be done in a way that it shouldn't affect the innovation. Because these are alternative finance, these are bringing new ways of financing to individuals, to small businesses. So any sort of regulation that would come from the country, from the governments, need to consider the amount of innovation that they can affect with the regulation. So this is my answer for peer-to-peer lending aspects. Regarding political crisis or economic crisis, in my talk, I explained the use of the app that we are using, OSRI. We are not only using OSRI for farmers. We are utilizing this app, which is developed by a social enterprise, for refugees. We are using this app for refugees in Rwanda, in Africa. These refugees, they can have skills, they are low-skilled, they are high-skilled, but these people are coming to a different country. They have to move because of the instabilities, because of the problems in their original country. Now they are in a new country as a refugee and they need support. How we can prepare them for the new environment, how we can prepare them for the new jobs and new life. This is how we utilize this social enterprise app again, by giving them literacy in terms of financial literacy, in terms of entrepreneurship, leadership, and other types of skills to prepare them for the working life. So I don't think that we should say, okay, you know, there is a crisis in a country and things should stop. No, still we are working on different angles and we are working with different agents, either from UN or from other types of human rights agencies and the social enterprises to get involved to help these people to, to bring them to the level that they can survive. The last question coming from the gentleman here is about lacking access to finance, the profit-driven profit-driven attitudes of the banks, and at the end, banks may not provide the same, the desired loans to those who need. This can be individuals or it can be small businesses. This is a common problem. Even though there is lots of initiatives to make banks to provide certain percentage of their loans towards helping to businesses, helping to individuals, this may not always happen, and any sort of riba, any sort of interest-related issues may affect people not to borrow from these banks. Therefore, the countries should consider, like Professor Hassan was mentioning about the importance of faiths, the importance of people attributes and perceptions. The country has full responsibility to consider individuals' faiths. There might be people who could borrow from conventional banks, and there would be people who will not be happy to borrow from conventional banks, but borrow from the Islamic Sharia-ruled banks. So in both cases, the most important thing is the welfare of the individual. The most important aspect is the growth, is the welfare of the companies, the small institutions, and there should be sufficient rules in place that the banks should provide their certain percent of their loans to this sort of small or micro enterprises to make them feel that they are part of this ecosystem and the program they are following is inclusive. Thank you.
Okay, I would like to open up, then I have been reminded that its time is up for the closing. So my apology to gentlemen from this side, but then I believe that Prof. Iftikhar and Prof. Mariam will still be here. If you have any burning question, you can just rush here and then ask them after we close. So I would like to thank all, Prof. Mulyaman, Prof. Iftikhar, and Prof. Mariam, sharing with us their thoughts on the theme that we have today. And I would say that very comprehensive because we touch on all aspects, infrastructure, knowledge and literacy, as well as the role of religions. And with that, I would like to conclude these plenary sessions. Let us put a hand together to all of our speakers.
Thank you, moderator and speakers, for the very constructive session. But don't leave just yet, because we would like to invite Head of Bank Indonesia Institute, along with the Director of Bank Indonesia Institute, Bapak Iman Gunadi, Bapak Yoga Afandi, to present the token of appreciations from Bank Indonesia Institute to our moderator and speakers. Now let's have a group photo, Bapak. Okay. First photo in 1. Okay. First photo in 1, 2, 3. And now for the second photo in 1, 2, 3. Thank you so much, and you may all be seated. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we have now come to the end of our plenary session. And on behalf of the committee, we would like to thank you for your presence and active participation. And hopefully this event will be beneficial for everybody, especially on the important issues discussed. And after this, don't forget that we will have parallel sessions at 1:30 p.m. Jakarta time or GMT +8 in Kakatua and Canary Room. And also, this session is available online. Please check the room information and online ID given earlier by the committee. And also for all of you, lunch is served on mezzanine floor. Please follow the signage for direction. I'm Rani signing off. Good afternoon and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.